Everybody's good? All right, so you guys are here to learn about financial aid, what it is, how it works, how to apply, all of that good stuff. So please make sure that you do ask your questions in the chat. We do have a chat monitor, so he'll be stopping me periodically to make sure that I'm answering your questions. So the big question right now, you guys, is who needs money for college? You guys hit the chat. Yes, me. I want money for college. So we are here to talk about how you get that money. Okay, so we're going to talk about the financial aid process, the types of financial aid that are available to our students, how to apply, special programs. So there are special programs at each of our universities. And then ultimately, we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions that you have. So please make sure that you enter those into the chat. Okay, so it all starts, you guys, with two forms, the FAFSA and the CADA. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and the CADA stands for California Dream Act Application. So it's two forms. All of the money that I'm talking about is connected to those two forms. Each student doesn't complete both forms. You will only complete one. We want you guys to understand that it is the student's responsibility to complete the FAFSA or the CADA, but it is a partnership with the student and the parent. So the forms are going to need both the student and parent information. But remember that our students are getting ready to go to college, so the student should really be in the driver's seat, because once we submit the form, once the student goes to college, colleges don't want to talk to parents anymore. They want to talk to the student. So we really need to make sure the student knows what's in that form. So how do I know which form to do? So this is what our FAFSA looks like. You're going to complete the FAFSA if you are a student who is a U.S. citizen, has a permanent social security number, or is a permanent resident here in the United States, okay? If I am a student who finds myself here undocumented for whatever reason, so I do not have a permanent social security number, or maybe I'm a student who's going through the DACA process, you're going to complete the California Dream Act application. The questions on both of the forms are exactly the same. All of the timelines, the process is exactly the same. It's just two different forms depending on your citizenship, okay? So remember, FAFSA, permanent social security number, US citizen, permanent resident, or the CADA is for undocumented students, okay? So we're not filling out both forms, we're only filling out one. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. So sorry for that little intermission. We had some technical difficulties. I think we had a little mini power outage, but we are back. So just to recap, you guys, for those of you who may not have heard everything prior to our little intermission, is that remember that our FAFSA and CADA, it's not both forms, it's just one. So if you are a US citizen, a permanent resident, or have a permanent social security number, you are going to complete the FAFSA in October of your senior year. And if you are an undocumented student who does not have a social security number or who is going through the DACA process, you would be completing the California Dream Act application in October of your senior year. Okay, remember we apply October 1st through March 2nd. So you have a big window to make sure that you get your applications in. Now, a few years ago, FAFSA got smart and they said, hey, you know what? We got to bring the FAFSA to the kids. And so they made a mobile app. And so you can actually complete your FAFSA on your phone. I actually helped a student yesterday complete his FAFSA on his phone, create his FSA ID, and submit it all in about 30 minutes. So I want you to understand you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, your tablet, your desktop. Really, you can submit your FAFSA anywhere. So we don't want to, there should be no reason why students aren't applying. Remember, we do one form and it generates money for us. Now it all starts, you guys, with this thing called an FSA ID. Your FSA ID is your username and password that you're going to use to log into your FAFSA, but also to sign your FAFSA. So a student needs a username and password, and one of the parents needs a username and password. Okay, so it takes about 10 minutes to create. Now here's a tip. Anytime you're doing anything financial aid related, You want to use the name that's on your social security card. Exactly. So even if it's a name I don't use at school, even if it's a name that I don't like, I have to use my full name as it appears on my social security card. When I create my username, my FSA ID, my username and password, it's going to go to the Social Security Administration and it's going to match it up. And if it doesn't match up exactly, it's going to give me an error message and it will not let me use it to log into my FAFSA, and it will not let me use it to sign it. Okay, so I'm going to go to this website. I'm going to go through the questions for myself, and then I'm going to create my username and password. Then I'm going to take one of my parents there. I'm going to take mom, or I'm going to take dad. I'm going to go through those questions and they're going to create a username and password. These usernames and passwords are ours forever and ever and ever. Okay, I actually have mine on a sticky note next to my tax information for my children because I know it's a username and password I don't use all the time. So I need to make sure that I have it in a safe place. The other place I tell students to write it down, and I know some people are like, I don't think that's a good idea, is to put it in your phone, to put it in your notes in your phone. We got our phones with our lives. It's in our hand all the time, and it's always accessible to you if somebody were to need to help you. Now, notice my little sticky note in the corner, you guys. You do not need an FSA ID for the California DREAM Act application. So if I'm an undocumented student completing the CADA, do not need to create an FSA ID. If I'm a student completing the FAFSA, I definitely need to make sure that I do that. So if you're a 9th through 11th grade student, could you do this now? 100%. You could totally create your username and password early. However, it's making sure that you write it down and that you put it in a safe place and that you don't forget it. Could I make it my 12th grade year when I'm doing my FAFSA? 100%. Just when we decide to complete our FAFSAs, we'll want to make sure that we complete that. One of the things I was able to do for you guys, this is what it looks like. So just to kind of give you a visual, is if you are on Zoom or you're here in the audience, you guys can put your camera from your phone over our QR code, and it actually takes you to a video that shows you step by step on how to create your FSA ID. It's really not that hard. Okay, so first step is to complete that FSA ID. Now, here's the secret, you guys. So this is the one slide I tell students and families all the time to take a picture of. This is the secret behind financial aid. So this is how financial aid offices determine how much money each student needs. So they are going to ask you questions on your FAFSA that answer those two questions. What are your college plans? What kind of colleges are you thinking about going to? Are you thinking about community colleges? Are you thinking about Cal States like Sac State, Fresno, Chico? Are you thinking about UCs like UC Davis and UC Berkeley and UCLA? Are you thinking of out-of-state schools? So they're going to allow you to list up to 10 schools that you may be interested in attending. That's how they're going to determine your cost of attendance, your COA. They need to know what schools are you interested in so they can determine how much is it going to cost for you to go there. Then the FAFSA and the CADA are going to ask you financial questions. How much money comes into your home? Did you as a student work? Did both mom and dad work? Are your parents married? They're going to ask you a ton of questions to try to figure out your estimated family contribution, your EFC. So they need to know, do your parents have any extra money lying around to help you pay for college? So they're going to take your cost of attendance, how much it costs for you to go to college. They're going to subtract your family's estimated family contribution, how much they think your parents can afford, and that's going to determine your financial need. So it's important to remember everybody's financial need is completely different because all of our situations are different. All of our financial situations are different, and the types of schools that we're going to are different as well. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about cost of attendance, you guys, these are the numbers that scare us, scares our parents, scares us as students. When you hear things like, it costs $25,000 a year to go to Sac State. And kids are like, $25,000 a year times 4, like what? I can't even apply, I can't even pay for 1 year and you want me to pay for 4? Or numbers like $37,000 a year to go to UC Davis. And then you'd multiply that by 4, $16,000 a year to go to schools like ARC or Sac State. And students and families get discouraged. So I tell students and families, these schools estimate cost of attendance high because they're including everything it costs for a student to go to school. So your tuition, your fees, your books, your papers, your pencils, your socks, your shoes, your toilet paper, everything it costs for you to go to school. Okay. But I want you to see up here, there are direct costs like your tuition and fees that we don't have control over. And then there's indirect costs that we as families have control over. Okay. So when I say things like housing, one of the cheapest ways to go to college is to stay home and live at your house and then commute back and forth to school. Okay. If you're going away to school, maybe in your dorm, you don't just have one person, you have 2 people or 3 people or 4 people. If you're living off campus, maybe you don't have one roommate, you have 4 roommates or 5 roommates or 6 roommates, right? Well, where we buy our books, do we rent them online? Do we buy them for the bookstore? Do we buy them new? Do we buy them used? What we eat. I mean, if you ask any college student, you guys, most college students are eating some type of noodle in a cup, noodle in a bag, noodle in a bowl. Okay. The best thing to do while you're at home is to learn how to cook, because that's the cheapest way for you to make sure that you have food. Transportation, how we get back and forth to school. I can tell you as a mom of 2 college students that we did not allow our students to take their cars to college because it was too expensive. Gas and insurance, right? So students ride their bikes, they have scooters, they have skateboards, roller blades, all kinds of different ways to get around at college. And then personal expenses. I tell college students it's super cool right now to thrift, to go to like the Goodwill and dollar store and those kinds of places. So college students are not, spending money at the most expensive places. So there is a lot of ways that we can cut down that cost of attendance. So I don't want you to be scared when you see those big numbers, okay? You got to let financial aid do its work. And then your estimated family contribution. Your estimated family contribution is based on what you put in the FAFSA in terms of your financial situation. So it's the estimated amount that is reasonably considered for that family to pay for that student's education. Now, an estimated family contribution could be 0, meaning that that family has no extra income lying around to help that student go to school. It could be $300, $400, $5,000, $6,000, $20,000, $30,000, just depends on everybody's situation. I want you to know that if you do get an EFC, that it isn't a bill. It's not a piece of money that you have to pay, okay? It's letting the student know that for that year, financial aid isn't going to worry about finding you that $2,000 or that $3,000. They're going to worry about finding you the bigger financial aid, that $16,000, that $20,000, that $30,000, okay? So just to kind of hit home, you guys, if you look on the left-hand side is our mathematical equation, COA minus EFC equals financial need. And if you look at the very top numbers, those are the cost of attendance. So $16,000 for Sac City, $28,000 for Sac State, $38,000 for UC Davis, $70,000 for a private school like UOP in Stockton. Now let's say I did my FAFSA. Okay, my estimated family contribution came back to $3,000. So if I decided to go to Sac State, they would take the cost of attendance, $28,000. They would subtract my EFC, that $3,000. So look at how much financial aid has to find me. They have to find me $25,000. Okay, $25,000. What if I was going to go to UOP? They would have to find me $67,000. Now here's a trick question. What if my EFC was 0? What if my parents had no money to offer me for college? What would they have to find me? The entire amount, right? So this is where I tell students, if you are a low-income student and you are a high achiever, you're taking AP classes and IB classes and you're working your butt off to get really good grades and you have 3.0s or higher, 4.0s, 4.5s, 4.7s, you should apply to these higher level universities because financial aid is going to find you your financial need anyways, okay? And remember, they're going to show you the money before you decide where you go. And ultimately, it's your decision, right? But we want you to complete your FAFSAs and your CADA so that we can show you the money. Questions about EFC, cost of attendance, how they figure out how much you need? Anything in the chat here, brother? Okay. So now let's talk about where it comes from. So if I need $67,000 and Mr. Herberto needs $25,000 and Mr. Connor needs $13,000, like where's all this money coming from, right? So it's coming from things like grants, work studies, loans, scholarships, and special programs. So let's look into all of these pots. So the first part I like to talk about is the grants. So when you hear the word grant, that equals free money. That's money that you do not have to pay back. Now, one of my favorite grants, you guys, is called the Cal Grant. Okay, so I want you to write this down. Cal Grant equals tuition assistance. California's sole goal and purpose is to try to pay your tuition here in California. So notice it's called the Cal Grant. So California wants you to stay in California. They want to give you money for tuition in California. So I can't take my California money to Texas or to New York or to Arizona. Okay. So we encourage US students, please list a California school first so that we can consider you for Cal Grant, and then list all your out-of-state schools. Okay. Because if you list an out-of-state school first, they're going to say, oh, Layla's going to Arizona. She doesn't want our money. So they're not even going to consider us. Okay. So Cal Grant, you guys, you have to complete your FAFSA or CADA by that March 2nd deadline. Okay, so March 2nd of your senior year. It's based on two things, your GPA and your financial aid. Okay, and your FAFSA or your CADA, your financial situation. Okay, and I'll show that how that works. So what happens is after your junior year, right before your senior year, all of your high schools electronically submit your GPAs to the California Student Aid Commission. Those are the people who put the Cal Grant together. Those are the people who give it out. Okay. So right before you start your senior year, all your senior grades get sent over there. Your GP gets sent over there, and it waits. And it waits for your FAFSA or your CADA to be submitted. And once it's submitted, it matches it up. And it determines which Cal Grant you're eligible for. So if you look, there's three different ones. There's Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B, and Cal Grant C. So I'm going to tell you right now, we can't get them all. We can only get one. And they're going to offer you the one that makes the most sense to you. Okay. So Cal Grant A is for a student who's in high school, headed to a four-year university, has a 3.0 or higher, and is middle income based on your FAFSA or your CADA. And this Cal Grant pays your tuition for 4 years, 100% at any California State University and any UC, and up to about $9,000 at a private school. Okay. Cal Grant B, look, is for a student who's headed from high school to a community college or to a four-year university, has a 2.0 or higher GPA, and is low income, okay, based on your FAFSA or your CADA. I'm going to show you some numbers in a little while, but check this one out. This one gives you tuition paid for plus an additional $1,648. So it gives you a living expense stipend. And then our Cal Grant C is for a student who maybe doesn't want to go to school for 4 or 5 or 6 years, but they want to get vocational training. They want to do a certificate, cosmetologists, mechanics, electricians, welders, construction, those types of jobs. Notice no set GPA, and it's going to help the student up to about $1,000. Okay, so California really wants to ensure that our students do have money available to them to attend college. Okay, so remember, we don't get them all, we only get one. And they give you the one that best fits your situation. And all you have to do is fill out your FAFSA or fill out your CADA. Everybody else does the rest of the work for you. Okay. Now, here are some examples of some incomes, you guys. Okay, so this is for 22-23. So this is for our current seniors. Now, if you're a 9th grade, a 10th grade, or a junior right now, your income ceilings are going to come out about September of your senior year. So right now, if I was a senior and my family I was a family of 4, my family can make up to $116,000 for a Cal Grant A or C. For a Cal Grant A, remember, I have to have that 3.0, okay? Now, if I was a family of 4 and I had a 2.0 or higher and lower income, my family can make up to $61,000. So this is kind of an example for you to kind of see what that guideline looks like. And I can tell you that they update the income guidelines every year. And remember, they usually post in September, right before your senior year. Okay. Now, California went back to the drawing table probably about a few years ago. It's been a while now. And they came up with this thing called the middle class scholarship. So they said, you know what? Cal Grant A, B, and C help students, up to a certain income. But what about our upper middle class families who are still having a hard time paying for their students' tuition? So they came up with this thing called the middle class scholarship. It's not a traditional scholarship in that you'll have to apply for it. All you have to do is submit your CADA or your FAFSA by that March 2nd deadline to qualify. And this one pays 10% to 40% of a student's tuition here in California at any CSU or any UC. So I like to describe it like a coupon. So Cal Grant A, B, and C pay your tuition 100%. Middle class scholarship will pay up to 40% off of that tuition. Okay. So again, and a family this year can make up to $191,000 to be able to qualify for a middle class scholarship. Okay. So California is really trying to set our families up for success. Now, part of your FAFSA is the Pell Grant, which is our federal grant. So this is federal money. This is money you can take wherever it is you want in the United States. Okay. I can take this one to Arizona. I can take this one to Texas, to New York, wherever. And I can tell you every year this Pell Grant goes up at least $100, but this year went up $200. So maximum Pell Grant is $6,495. It's the highest it's ever been. Okay. Now, what I love about the Pell Grant, you guys, is you can get the whole pie or a piece of the pie. So if I need the entire Pell Grant, they will offer it to me. But if I only need $2,000 of it, they'll offer me $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. Okay. And the FSEOG grant is another federal grant that is offered to our lowest income families. Okay, and that's a first come, first serve. So the sooner you submit your FAFSA and your CADAs, the better. So when it opens up October 1st, I tell students, make sure you get your FAFSA or CADA in by Halloween and you're good to go. Okay. And then part of our FAFSA and our CADA is our federal work study program. So they could offer a student federal work study anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000. This allows the student to work on campus tax-free. Okay, tax-free. So there are jobs everywhere on campus, in the library, reshelving books, at the well, at the gym, swiping ID cards, in the financial aid office, filing paperwork. My daughter worked at the event center at San Jose State and got to watch concerts and basketball games as she was earning money at the same time. Okay. Now, the myth with federal work study, you guys, is if you are offered that money, they don't automatically find you a job and give it to you. So US students have to find the job, interview for the job, get the job, and then tell your boss, hey, guess what? I'm a work study student. And they get super excited because the federal government's going to pay you for your paycheck instead of the institution. Okay. And then lastly, you guys, student loans are part of financial aid. I know those are not the financial aid that we want or that we're excited about, but it always makes me laugh a little bit when students go, I didn't get anything for financial aid. I just got student loans. And I'm like, well, that's kind of part of financial aid. So remember, our student loans are available to our students, and then sometimes they'll be offered to the parents to help the student go to college if they didn't qualify for any of the free money. Okay. So there are two types. There are student loans. So for the student, in the student's name, there's no credit check. They're giving it to the student just because they need it. Okay. So there's a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan. The subsidized loan is the better loan because the government pays the interest while the student is in college. The unsubsidized loan, the student pays the interest while they're in college as well. Notice that they don't have to start paying back those student loans until they're not enrolled in school anymore, whether they stop going or they graduate. Okay. And then Parent Plus loans, there are some situations in which your financial aid office could offer your parents a loan to take out on your behalf. And so that could be offered. But notice that I'm saying the word offer. They can offer you a student loan. You can choose to take it or not take it. And you can choose to modify it. So let's say they offered you $5,500 in student loan and you're like, okay, I did my math and I don't need all of that. I only need $1,000. Then I tell students, only take what you need. Only take that $1,000. Okay. So remember, it's an offer. And if student loans are something that bother you, students' scholarships are the next best thing. Okay. Now, scholarships are not part of FAFSA and they're not part of CADA. Scholarships are all about the student. So scholarships are work that you as a student have to do, okay? But I do want to tell you, there are scholarships everywhere, private business, institutions, sports, but based on where you come from, your interests, all kinds of great places. So I tell students there are all kinds of scholarships. Need-based. So need-based scholarships are scholarships that are for students who have financial need. Merit-based scholarships are also something that you'll hear. Merit-based scholarships are based on the student's achievement. So high GPA, student involvement, those kinds of things. So those are the two big difference ones. And that it's your responsibility as students to apply for scholarships, to find the scholarships, and that some of the things that they do want you to have are things like a letter of recommendation. So maybe from your teacher, a coach, a supervisor. They also might want a transcript. So it could be an unofficial transcript. So if it's a merit scholarship and they say, hey, we want a student to apply that has a 3.5 or higher, they may ask you to attach that transcript as proof. Okay. And a lot of scholarships will want a little mini essay, okay, about who you are, why you need the money, what you want to be when you grow up, those kinds of questions, okay? This is a great page to take a picture of, you guys. These are all wonderful scholarship search engines. So those of us who have social media, you know that we create profiles, tell people a little about who we are. These search engines are also the same way. So you're going to create a little profile. They'll ask you your GPA, your major, what you're interested in. And what they do is they try to match you with scholarships. So as soon as you create a profile, your scholarship, your email inbox is going to be super full. They're going to say, Layla, check out this scholarship and check out this scholarship and check out this scholarship. So this is a great place to start. Okay. Questions so far, you guys? In here, I know you guys came a little bit late. Questions so far? Anything online? Okay, perfect. Okay, so what happens after I submit? So I know that there's two forms. I'm only going to choose one. I know I get to start submitting my FAFSA and CADAs by October 1st. I know that I have to do it by March 2nd of my senior year. I know that I'm eligible for grants and student loans and work study. I know that me as a student have to work toward finding those scholarships if I'm not interested in loans, right? So now what happens after? So as soon as I submit my FAFSA or my CADA, 3 to 5 days later, I'm going to get this thing called a student aid report or a SAR. Okay. I want you to look at this as your double check. Your SAR has every question and answer, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer that you submitted on your FAFSA or your CADA. This is your opportunity to go through and say, did I answer it correctly? Did I mess up some numbers? Did I get too crazy with the zeros? Instead of putting 50,000, I put 500,000. You know, so this is your opportunity to make any changes. Here is the beauty, you guys. We need you to submit your applications by March 2nd. If you make a mistake, guess what? You can go back and make corrections. You can go back and make as many corrections as you need to. Okay, so don't let you going, oh shoot, I don't know what I'm doing, stop you. Because remember, there's gonna be lots of great places that we can show you to get free help. Then the other thing you're gonna receive is a CAR, California Aid Report. This is a letter from CSAC. They email it to you, but CSAC is still old school and they also send you a letter. And this is the letter that tells you which Cal Grant you got. So they're going to say, hey, Layla, you're eligible for a Cal Grant. Okay. And when they tell you you're eligible for a Cal Grant, they tell you to go to this website and they tell you to make an account. So Cal Grant's going to say, hey, you're eligible for a Cal Grant. Go to this website, Web Grants for Students, create your Cal Grant account and find out which one. Okay. This is also where you get to tell Cal Grant where you're going. So if my goal was to go to UC Berkeley and on my FAFSA, I put UC Berkeley first. Guess what? When I come into this account, it's going to be sending my money to UC Berkeley. But once I do all my college applications and admissions, and I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't get into UC Berkeley. And I think I'm going to stay home and go to Sac State. This is where I tell California, don't send my money to UC Berkeley. Send it to Sac State because that's where I'm going. Does that make sense? So this is your Cal Grant management system. This is where you get to see what Cal Grant you got. This is where you get to see, did you qualify for middle class scholarship, right? So this is your Cal Grant management system. So first, you're going to get your student aid report from your FAFSA. Says, hey, it's being processed. Make sure there's no mistakes. Then you're going to get a CAR, your California aid report that says, hey, guess what? You got a Cal Grant. Go here, make your account and find out which one you got, okay? Then every college that you get into is going to show you the money. They're going to show you a financial aid award letter, okay? So if I apply to 10 schools and I get into 5, these 5 schools are going to say, hey, Layla, if you come to Fresno State, this is what I got. Come to UC Davis, this is what I got. If you come to Sac State, this is what I got. And then students and families use that to determine where they're going to go. And most people go to the school that gives them the most money, right? Because that makes sense. Okay, so I tell students, if you apply early, so FAFSA CADA opens October 1st of your senior year. So if you apply before Halloween, which is tell students that's your deadline before Halloween, then you're going to see your money faster. Your money is going to be processed faster, and the money is going to get into your pocket faster. Now, can I wait all the way till March 2nd? Sure, you could totally can. But I want you to see your money, and I want you to get your money on time. So we encourage you guys to do it in October. Okay. Now, this is a sample award letter. Okay. So remember earlier when I said they're going to do that mathematical equation? It's right there. Cost of attendance. This student was actually going to Sonoma, was $26,000. That student did their financial aid application. They did their FAFSA. Their estimated family contribution, the EFC, came out to $3,000. So remember, they take your cost of attendance, they subtract what they think your parents can help you with, and they come up with your financial need. So for this student to go to Sonoma, she needed $23,000. So Sonoma had to go into all their pots of money, and they said, okay, we got to find Layla $23,000. So they're going to give her a CSU university grant for $5,000. Look, she got a Cal Grant B. She got some Pell Grant. She didn't get the whole thing, but she got some of it. They offered her work studies and student loans. So now she gets to go through that and decide, is this enough money for me to go to school? So I tell students, when you get your financial aid award, you need to make sure you have money for 3 things: tuition, fees. Every college has random fees, anywhere between $800 and $1,500 usually, sometimes a little bit more, that we have to pay no matter what. It's like the blah, blah, blah building fee, the blah, blah, blah health services fee, just random fees we have to pay. And your housing, where you're going to live, okay? Because we as students and families can figure out how we're going to get food, figure out how we're going to get back and forth to class, paper, pencils, those kinds of things. But the 3 big things are tuition, fees, and housing, okay? So if I look up here, and if she got a Cal Grant, what does that mean? That she got free tuition, right? So her state university grant is going to pay her tuition at Sonoma State. So I can go check, her tuition's paid for. Now, what about her fees? So remember, I said fees are like $800 to about $1,500. You see that Cal Grant B? That will probably pay her fees. So fees and tuition, check, I'm good. Now I got to figure out, she's in Sonoma. She wants to go to Sonoma. Okay, so right now the free money she has left is $55,000 or $5,550. The dorm she chose was like $8,000. So it was the cheapest dorm. She's living with 3 other people. So she's in a quad. So there's 4 girls living in there. She has a 5-day meal plan, which means she gets food Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, she's going to have snacks in her room, peanut butter and jelly, Cheez-Its, crackers, whatever it is, noodles, whatever it is she wants to have, okay? So if she's in a room for $8,000, is she going to have to borrow some money? Yeah. So that student loan that's offered to her for $3,500, I would encourage her, borrow the $3,500, go to Sonoma State, live on campus, have an experience. Because once we're done with our first year, ladies and gentlemen, most of our students are not living on campus anymore. They found roommates, they've met friends, they have part-time jobs, right? So now they're living in houses and apartments with roommates. They have a little bit more control over how much they're spending, okay? So I tell students, if your dream is to go away to school, that first year, most likely you're gonna have to borrow, but the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, a lot of students figure it out. I'm a mommy of 2 kiddos in college. My daughter graduated a couple years ago. My son's in college right now. Borrowed the first year for my daughter, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, didn't have to borrow. But I can tell you, one of the ways that we kept her cost of attendance down is she went to San Jose State and lived in a house with 9 girls. So that's how we kept her rent down. My son's at San Diego State right now. He's living in the dorms his first year. We had to borrow a little bit, but 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, we're hoping we don't have to borrow because by that time they have part-time jobs, they're working, you have a little bit more choice. Now, what if this was for Sac State and I decided I was going to live at home? where my mom makes food for me every day and I don't have to pay rent. Would I have to borrow any money? Probably not, right? And I would actually have money in my pocket. That $5,550 I could put in my pocket. I could use that for books and gas and food, right? So lots of different ways to look at your financial aid award letter, you guys. Questions about the financial aid award? How to read it? Any questions? Okay. All right, you guys, just real quick, because I have about 10 minutes. There are special programs on all of our systems. Right now, the biggest one that people are talking about is the free college at community colleges for 2 years. The students will be like, hey, I heard you can go to community college anywhere in California for 2 years for free. 100% true. There are 118 community colleges, you guys, in California. I can go to any one of them for free. But I have to do these 3 things. I have to make sure that I complete my FAFSA or CADA by March 2nd. Okay, so if you do it by Halloween, you're meeting that deadline. I have to take at least 12 units. So in high school, they're called credits, and in college, they're called units. Okay, so in high school, each class, each semester is 5 credits. In college, each class, each semester is like 3 to 4 or 5 credits. So 12 units is like usually 3 to 4 classes. Okay, most students in high school are taking 6 or 7 classes. So they like to hear that it's only 3 or 4 classes. They like that part. And I have to be a first-time college student. So that means if I'm a high school student getting ready to go to college, I'm already meeting that, even if I'm taking college classes now in high school. If you're taking college classes now in high school, you're still considered a high school student. Once you graduate and then you go into the college, then you're a first-time college student. Okay, so I have to do those 3 things in order to get free tuition. Okay. Now at our CSU, Sac State, Fresno, Chico, San Jose, San Diego, there are 23 in California. We have the EOP program and the state university grant. The state university grant helps students pay tuition. It's typically offered to our students who are receiving a Cal Grant B. And then our EOP is Educational Opportunity Program. This is for first generation underrepresented academically disadvantaged students. There is an additional application to it that's part of your CSU application. So when you apply to Sac State, it's part of that application. And when you apply to San Jose State, it's part of that application. But it's important for you to know that it is an additional program that you can apply for, and that many CSUs still have funds that'll offer you an additional $2,000. Okay, but that just depends on that school. And then our UCs, you guys, have this thing called the Blue and Gold opportunity that says if a family makes $80,000 or less, they get free tuition. Many of our students and families who make $80,000 or less are already going to get the Cal Grant. So just know if you're in that situation, you're going to get free tuition. Doesn't really matter who pays for it as long as it's paid, right? And then tips and tricks, you guys. If you are a senior right now, you are doing 23, 20, 22, no. For our juniors, you guys are doing 23, 24. You can apply, you can list up to 10 schools on your FAFSA. We want you to list a California school first because we want you to be eligible for that Cal Grant we just talked about. If you are an 11th grader right now, you are going to be using 2021 taxes. So those are the taxes that you parents like us have already done. So I tell students, if you're in that boat, tell your parents to put away these taxes for you where they can find them next year for sure. But if you're a 9th or 10th grader, remember we're going to use 2-year-old taxes for your FAFSA. We want you to connect your information through the IRS. We will show you how to do that. And then also make sure you print a signature page, take a picture. You always want proof that you submitted it, okay? And then lastly, you guys, in October of your senior years here in the Sacramento County, Cal-SOPA is one of the organizing agencies for our area. We hold Cash for College workshops like this one. And we're hoping next year we're going to be back in person at all of our local high schools, very many of our local high schools, okay? So make sure that you're paying attention to your announcements in October and November at your high school because there will be Cash for College workshops. 100% free. Just like tonight, there's computers, there's sometimes snacks, there's people experts. Sac State's financial aid supports us, UC Davis, all of our Los Rios community colleges. Experts come and literally sit with you to make sure that your FAFSA and your CADA is submitted correctly and on time. So it's 100% free. And then lastly, you guys, these are great resources. Okay, so if you hover your phone camera over, this is your FAFSA checklist. It's everything I talked about today, but in a checklist. So I tell students, if you're able to check the box next to all of them, you're in good shape. And then if you're a student who's completing the CADA, this is the CADA checklist. So if you're doing the California Dream Act application, you would use this one. And then lastly, you guys, I am at the top. My name is Layla Vera. I am the College Advising Program Coordinator for Cal-SOP here in Sacramento. The rest of the emails are my colleagues and college advisors that you guys can email if you have any questions about financial aid, about trying to find colleges that match where you want to attend, things like that. And then I always encourage everyone to follow us on social media because we do post reminders and great information for you. It's a great, easy way to, with sometimes scholarships, easy way to get information that you don't have to work too hard for. Okay. Questions right now for anyone?